The Blackhawk situation right now is pretty crazy. From a season that looks so promising to start, that completely fell flat on its face after a couple injuries, completely derailed the season, to an off season that has made the Blackhawks look like complete fools of themselves, to a little minor genius towards the end. We'll get there, but this season and this off season have shown a lot of what this true Hawks team is and what it needs to become. There is so many things that still need to go right for this team to be able to jump back into playoff contention. And I want to get into that a little bit today. I want to go through this past season. I want to go like general brief overview of how this past season went, what struggles we came across, what do we need to build upon, and where do we go from here. And I want to go over the offseason because this offseason showed a lot about what Kyle Davidson is. Like, he's closer to losing his job right now than he's ever been before. So let's just hop right into it. We'll start with this little bit of a season overview. For many of you who don't know how the 25-26 Blackhawks seasons went, not great. Not great. After starting the season off with 3 straight losses to Florida, Boston, and Montreal, we finally got our first win against Utah, and then we spanked St. Louis. But shortly after, we just couldn't get a consistent string of wins in. But even then, it was still promising. We could get some wins in here and there. It was not horrible at all. There's a short stretch there in the Pacific road trip that we had, especially when Edmonton lost in overtime, and then Seattle, where Bedard got kicked out for yelling at the referee, where it just looked a little bit downer. But then we went into Vancouver, and then Calgary, and then we came back home and beat Detroit, where it just gave me so much hope. And this was the first time we started off a season well into the season above NHL 500. It didn't take until the December 6-7 weekend that actually cost us the rest of the season. Those 2 games alone, I feel, cost us the season so heavily. Going into LA, we beat them 2-1 on the first night. The first night we were in LA, we beat them 2-1. And then the day directly after, well, actually, there's a couple days after. I'll give it that. We lose 6-0, and this was such a boring game. I had it so on and off, but every time I turned it on, goal scored by the Kings, and it was not a good game, a fun game to watch. And then we get spanked by Anaheim the night next after, 7-1 on the 6th and the 7th. 13-1 in one weekend. We lost over 2 games. I made the whole video of going over why that was such a bad weekend, and then we go on to lose so many games after that. At that point, our season was derailed, and then like I said, a couple games after that, but Bedard goes down with injury, and now with the recent news of his shoulder injury and his shoulder surgery, that he's going to be out at least a month and a half in the season, I'm a bit concerned because now Blackhawks don't have a clear-cut number 1 guy anymore. Bedard was our clear-cut number 1 guy. He's our go-to guy who can get goals on the board. There's a reason. There was a reason through that first successful stint of the Hawks being above 500 at the start of the season was because Bedard was contributing over 50% of the goals that the Blackhawks scored, and he was on pace for clearly over 100 points, and he was on pace with Mac. That was where serious considerations of Bedard and Macklin Celebrini being the modern day Ovi and Crosby started, was the fact that they had started off the season so hot. They were co-leading the points. And then Bedard gets injured in that St. Louis game on the last draw against Braden Shen. And his season is completely derailed from there. He doesn't come back at least until just before the Olympic break. And by then, Nazar's also been well out with his jaw injury. And Nazar is gone until after the Olympic break. So the Hawks just fell off the rails really early on in the season because of 2 injuries. And I think even before that, it was starting to fall off the rails. We also struggled with injuries earlier in the season. Our captain, Nick Foligno, was out a lot. Having your captain out of the room just sucks. Really, it just sucks. Especially having Dickinson being out in and out of the lineup because of injury was also not great. And then at the trade deadline, we trade away all of them including Murphy. And I feel we had a really good trade deadline. Like, I think the goal of the trade deadline was opening up roster slots. We want these younger guys getting good opportunities in the NHL. And with Foligno, Dickinson, and even Murphy being there, it kind of just it felt like they were hogging slots, especially for guys that are well older who are going to look to win cups. And we gave them, I think Kyle Davidson gave them the best opportunity to be able to go win those cups. Murphy and Dickinson get to go to Edmonton and try to go win a cup they lost in the first round. But they got to go to Edmonton, who's been in the Cup Finals 2 years in a row before that. Then we send Foligno to go play with his brother in Minnesota, probably for what probably is his last season. I don't think he's re-signed yet, so we'll still see what happens with Nick Foligno. But overall, pretty successful trade deadline. And we also got some other positives. Comesso, absolutely looked like a stud. Like Soderblom had been inconsistent all season. He had a really good start to the season, but I will get into goaltending. But I just want to say Comesso looked incredible in his 3 games. Maybe the one against Washington wasn't great, but the Nashville game and the Utah game, so good, so like it gives us so many tangibles of what Meso can be, and I will get also into the way his contract is structured. So I will get into that, but the rest of the season we were all right. There was a few stretches where we won games, but there was some brutal games, completely brutal games. Both Pittsburgh games, we get scored on 7 each. Screw you too, Pittsburgh. New York also. The Carolina game to end the year. Oh my goodness. But we do end off on a positive game. Chicago won 5-2 against the San Jose Sharks. Blackhawks, we won the MacDard Bowl in 25-26. But the roster looked gutted. We were still running Burakovsky on the top line. I think Lardis got some chances up there. He looked pretty good up there. Frondel's debut is great. But now I will get to the Bedard surgery. He's going to miss a month and a half into the next season. Between Frondel and Nazar, one of them are going to have to be our 1C. And I feel whoever you choose that changes up how the entire lineup looks. Kancherov, I think clearly he plays on your right wing, but I feel if you play Nazar on the top line, you got to pair him up with Kancherov and Bertuzzi, and then you have to have Frondel with Teravainen and probably Donato so he can supplement taking faceoffs. But if you see, I think that's the way I would go. But if you clearly see Frondel as being able to take over as the 1C as an 18-year-old, I think you got to go Teravainen and Kancherov in that situation. But that's sending him off the deep end because you don't have anybody on that top line who can supplement taking faceoffs for him. Because I feel if you throw Donato on the second line, like he can keep up, but he can also provide supplemental faceoffs for when Frondel just doesn't have it. Like you can supplement between the two, which is I feel a good way of development path for Frondel, at least for his first full year in the NHL, first full. But I mean, it all comes down to if they see Frondel as who can be a 1C, or if they trust Nazar enough to play up there. Nazar's extension's kicking in. He's getting paid the big bucks now. He's got to act like the big kid here and step up. He had 2 all right years already in the NHL. Next year, he needs to take one big step and absolutely send it. This kid's got all the tools. Nazar's got all the tools to be an absolute stud superstar. That's why I call his deal an absolute steal. But it'll still take a lot for that to happen. But as far as the rest of the free agent signings that we got, Ian Cole is nice on the back end. I feel that's actually a good signing. I maybe personally would have kept Grizzlick around. Grizzlick was nice. One by one. Yeah, I think he's still unsigned, which is wild to me. Grizzlick actually did his job, and I'm like not a super Grizzlick fanboy. Like I criticized him early on in the year. I didn't feel like he was great. But towards the end of the year, he was a positive on the back defensive end. He got injured, which kind of sucks to end his Hawks tenure. But bring on the Ian Cole era. He'll definitely have to supplement in with Korchinski, so Korchinski doesn't have to play the full season, have at least that many responsibilities. He also, if we're putting Ian Cole in the lineup, we kind of have to pair him up with Levshinov because Levshinov needs to learn to become more responsible. And Ian Cole, for what he is a really responsible defenseman. Um, but Bowen Byram signing, uh, when you first see it, and you saw how much he re-signed for, oh, he costs way too much. And in signing and in trade value, I hate losing Louis Carvier. I genuinely do. Like that was the one piece I got added in the trade where I'm like, why? Why? Like I would have been fine giving up the fourth and whatever the other pick we gave up. I don't remember. But Louis Crevier just he always was good to me. And he could play right side. He was like I love Vlasic and Crevier together. But to give him up for Byram, I'm coming around to it. After Buffalo completely fumbled that fourth round pick, I mean, we'll see what Daxon Rudolph turns into, but he wasn't even on my board. Genuinely, he just was not on my board. That makes you feel a little bit better that it was Buffalo who fumbled the pick and not Kyle Davidson. But again, I don't know who Kyle Davidson would draft. I mean, it became increasingly clear that Ivor Stenberg was not, especially after all the moves that Mike Greer had made for the Sharks, that Stenberg was probably going to end up there. Which, oh my god, the fact that San Jose was going to pay more for Byram also makes me feel a bit better that we threw in Louis Crevier in the fourth overall pick to be able uh, to get Bowen Byram, especially for what we got, because the Sharks were going to sign him for 14 by 4. We only got him for 12.5 by 6. Like, yeah, that's like the new Seth Jones contract because he's unproven and he's now the most paid defenseman in the league. He plays for Chicago. Okay, we're still waiting on the Bedard extension. Hopefully, it's after that Leo Carlson sign up offer sheet. He's going to sign for 18, 19, $20 million. Still waiting to see how that Leo Carlson goes, but the West just continues to get weaker. Anaheim's so cooked. So cooked. Like, Chicago going into this next year, realistically, we're probably going to finish last in the Central again. That's just the unfortunate truth. Unless Nashville bottoms out, unless Winnipeg sees something in a quick rebuild that they can get, like unless Winnipeg literally gets rid of Hellebuck, like there's no way we finish ahead of them. But the Pacific right now is so wide open. Oh my goodness! Like San Jose is legitimately going to make the playoffs this year in the Pacific. Like who's the Pacific got that are good teams right now? Like Edmonton, I guess, is on the borderline of probably second, third team in the Pacific. Vegas is probably clear cut, right? We agree about that. And then you throw in the Sharks at third, Anaheim at fourth, but like Anaheim's going to be so cooked. Like their entire roster's now gutted. Um, who else? Seattle is not great right now. LA's I'm not sure what they're doing. They're not in a rebuild, but they're not in a retool. They're in a weird spot to where they're not great, but they're not good either. But the West is so wide open right now, especially in the Pacific. But the Central is so locked down. St. Louis has actually done an amazing retool this offseason to where they're probably going to be like borderline playoffs. So the gauntlet of the Central just sucks for Chicago right now, especially with the top four teams just being undisputed, probably like top each in their own top 8 teams in the league. So for the Chicago to be able to break into playoffs, I think is going to be a stretch, especially missing Bedard for so long. But I look at the roster and I'm not too disappointed. I just going to this next season, I just want to see development. I've heard so many comments about how our prospects are looking right now. Lardis could be something. He had a pretty good season. He got 10 goals. 10 goals in what? Like 30, 40 games? In his first, like, yeah, first, he wasn't even supposed to be in the NHL this season, but just because injuries happened that he got called up. And he's actually proved like he was playing fourth line minutes. He wasn't playing very long. He got to play on the top line for what, like maybe 5 games. And he looked pretty good with Bedard. So I think there's something there. Matthew Chuck made a lot of interesting comments about Oliver Moore, especially from after the World Hockey Championship. That guy on an avalanche coming from the top of the blue line on the power play could be a deadly weapon. Second power play, because I think Bedard's got that lockdown on the first power play now. But I see so much potential in Oliver Moore. He's 21, so much potential there. Oliver Moore could easily flourish into a top 6, maybe top line talent. Roman Kanserov gets inserted into this lineup. I've already sung his praises so many times that I don't think I need to even put this. but Roman is going to make this lineup 100% better than it was last season. He is an influx of talent, like a top line talent that you can insert into the lineup immediately and help this roster. The bottom four, the fourth line looks like a fourth line. Um, I don't know who you have center it, rather that be Donato or Green. I would like Green centering it, especially since that's the role he's going to start playing. It's going to suck for his development, 100%. I can tell you that much. But as far as people who play with Ryan Green, you probably have Mangiapane on one side and then Slaggert or Greenway on the other. I think a lot of people forget that we have Mangiapane. I know he got injured towards the end of the year, but like we got him in the trade for with Dickinson, right? And Doc. Like we got the first round and Mangiapane. We have his services for at least one more year. And I don't hate the Italian stallion. If he can bring some energy and he can get like match his points from last season, that's a success season for him, I feel. Um Beyond that, third line, gotta I hope more centers it. Like I hope our center core goes Nazar, Frondel, more Green. Realistically, because that's just the way you kind of have to run it. Like you can restructure it once Bedard's back. Once Bedard's back, you could probably shift everyone down and then bring more into the top six on the wing. But I just like more as a center right now because my personal bias is that I want Frondel playing on the wing. But like realistically looking at it, Chicago sees so much in Frondel as a center for some reason, I guess. But I would love him as a winger to Bedard. Frondel, Bedard, and Kanserov would be an unreal line. I, as far as development goes, like Bedard, like Frondel and Kanserov are both just pure goal scorers. Those guys, but Frondel is like going to be a modern day Ovi. Bedard's got an unreal shot himself, but his playmaking is even better. And Kanserov's just got hockey IQ for days. That he's a pure goal scorer. He can score from anywhere. But yeah, it's looking cooked a little. Like obviously you don't want to roll out with this lineup, but I don't think it's as bad as a lot of people think. I don't think we're finishing bottom two again. That if we finish bottom two, I don't care if Bedard's injured for the first month and a half. Kyle Davidson has got to go. 100% got to go. We cannot finish bottom two, bottom three, even like I can say we can bottom five. Bottom five is a bit more reasonable. It stinks, but like with the roster rolling out, not great. If we finish bottom five and we don't acquire a superstar talent to play with Bedard or something like a top six forward to play with Bedard, then I consider it a failure. Kanserov doesn't pan out, failure. Simple as that, really. Decor, it's the decor. Vlass has got to step up. I know it was his first year in the role as being the number one D man for Chicago last year. He doesn't even need to be the number one D man this year. He's now with Byram, so they can share that responsibility. Vlass will still be stepping up, and I feel like he's going to step up. He's going to get an A. He's going to get a letter on his chest in some way. Vlass is a leader out on the ice, and I still feel like he could probably be our number one D man, even though we have Byram now. I feel they play together. Kaiser and Rinzel look really good together, I thought, actually. Like, I think they played really well off of each other. And then for third pairing, you probably go Ian Cole and Levshinov. But if you need Korchinski to be in the lineup, I think you gotta take Levshinov out of the lineup. I think those two you have to supplement playing with Ian Cole. And good God, what do you do with Ethan Del Mastro? He's probably just an extra body this year. Realistically speaking, there's just no way he gets into this lineup. He's probably languishing in Rockford all year, unfortunately for him. But I think that's just the way it kind of goes. The defense is starting to take a bit of a shape, and we got one older guy plus Byram plus Vlass as our veteran presence. Kaiser's been here for a couple of years now. And then you have Rinzel and Levshinov. Levshinov played the full year last year. Rinzel had a stint in Rockford. So as far as full seasons go, this will be a full season. But like last year was his rookie season. So it'll be an interesting sophomore year for those two. And then now we'll get to the goaltending situation. And I want to start this off with saying Knight is by far a starter. He had an incredible year. I think, I think I said in my player grade post that you can split it up into the pre-Olympic Knight and post-Olympic Knight. Pre-Olympic Knight, Vesna candidate. Like if he pulled the Blackhawks into the playoffs, easy Vesna. But just post-Olympic Knight, he lost the shine that made everyone fall in love with him. And I still think he still has the pre-Olympic Knight in him, but I just worry. That Carolina game, especially, was super concerning. I know we're just honing it in at that point. We're tanking, trying to get as many points as we can, but you just want Knight to be at least above a 700 save. A 682? I know it's one game, and he's fighting illness all year. Like, I don't think the Hawks have had a sicker team, besides maybe COVID, but like I don't think we've had a sicker team in a season. Like we were struck by the illness bug way too many times this season, and it just hit Spencer and Knight especially the hardest for some reason. But whenever Knight went down, we had Soda as our backup, and like the so much of the first half of the season was so like you could see the potential. There's so much potential there with Arvid Soderblom, but right now potential doesn't cut it, especially when he's putting up absolute stinker games alongside the like masterclass games. Like there are a lot of games where he can put up like a 930, but then the next game he's putting up a 780. Like he's way too inconsistent. And then enter into the picture Drew Comesso. He's becoming an RFA at the end of this past season, and he gets called up after Soderblom and Spencer Knight both go down with illness into a game in Washington where he has to fly in the day of. And with Soderblom, I think it was backing him up, but I think he was still ill. Like he was pretty much like he wasn't playing. But so he comes in, he gets smashed 5-1. It's like it's excusable because like he flew in last minute. Like there wasn't much you can ask of him at that point. But it's the night after, a bit of preparation. He's a bit tired from the day before. Some good preparation for the Nashville game. He goes into Nashville and he makes an incredible performance. He gets the shutout. Like, what more in that situation could you ask of him? He had 36 saves. 36 saves on the second half of a back-to-back. And this is where my eyes immediately switched to him. I'm like, this guy has it. This guy has the cojones. He has the tangibles. And then he gets called up for a third game against the Utah Mammoth. The second one after just to sweep them finally, and he gets called up in overtime, makes 29 of 31 saves, and the Hawks win that game in overtime for Messo. Insane. I love Messo. I love Messo so much. And going into the summer, he's an RFA, and I was like, I need to see when he gets re-signed. I want him as our backup now. But he signed $850K for 2 years. But the contract is structured in a certain way. We still have Soderblom for one more year. He did not get traded. We have Soderblom for one more year. His contract expires at the end of the 26-27 season. Drew Comesso is now signed for 2 seasons until 27-28. The first year of his contract is structured as a two-way. The second year is structured as a one-way contract. So the way it kind of appears to me is that Soderblom backs up Knight for the 26-27 season, and once his contract expires, we don't re-sign him. He becomes a free agent, goes elsewhere. Who cares really where? And the second year of Drew Comesso's contract kicks in. He becomes a backup, makes the prove it of how much money do you want? Play it to how much money you want as a backup. And then he resigns for however much he wants because based on how his play as a full-time backup. Simple as that. Spencer Knight is your 1A. He is easily your 1A. Knight is days and night better than Soderblom. And Messo right now, I would say Spencer Knight's a better goalie than Drew Comesso. And honestly, coming into this next season, I still hope Messo gets at least 5 games. Bit pushing. It's two-way, especially if Knight and Soderblom go down. You give him 5. Give him 5, I feel. And I feel Meso can prove to you why he deserves that backup position. I still hate the fact that he has to spend this year in Rockford. I feel like he's ready now. I feel like he's ready to just not be a starter, but at least like backup, get 10 games under his belt. But I want to see at least five for Meso. And like our goaltending can be set for the next few years. Adam Gajan also signed his ELC, so he's going to be playing for Rockford. So Rockford will be in an interesting situation where they have three goalies. I know we signed Oliver Rodrigue to replace Bersnoy, however you say it, a Russian goalie. He got suspended 20 games for violating the drug policy for the IEPD or something like that. And so we brought in Olivier Rodrigue, did his job, but I think his contract expired. It is expired. So I don't know how long the Bear is still suspended for. His suspension might be up already. Could be, I don't know. But the net will be at least split two ways between Meso and Gajan. And it might be split three ways with the Bear. So it'll be interesting how they do that. I would love to see it just split between Meso and Gajan, and then have the Bear in case Meso does get called up in some situations, which is like the best hope you can have. This is the most hopium copium I probably could have in this situation. The Hawks are sound goaltending, like genuinely, and Rockford. As far as players I haven't mentioned yet, like Boyver is probably going to start in the AHL. Vanaker, Spalacy are both going to start making starts in the AHL. Yeah, and then we have Netchell in college. Mason West will be starting college. And then William Villeneuve and Ryan Ruberek are now Hawks. Steals from the draft, genuinely, second round steals. Like that also makes me feel better about giving up the fourth overall pick, is that we got two probably first round talents in the second round. Like I know they're gonna be works in progress, 100%. And I know if we've drafted the Xavier Villeneuve types before, like he is very much a Kevin Korchinski type, but I feel he's kind of a do over. Kevin Korchinski's his development got ruined by the whatever CHL rule made it so that he had to play the full season of his first year in the NHL. And that just completely derailed any development he could have had. He got thrown off the deep end, and it was shown immediately that he could not swim. It completely ruined his development. And now with Xavier Villeneuve, we get a do-over. What does that say? What about what we do with Korch? Who knows? We're still looking for that forward. Could Korch be in those trade packages? I would hate to see it, but if it gets the job done, it gets the job done. Anyways, that'll do it there. Looking into next season, realistically, we finish fourth to fifth last. Any more than that is being way too overly optimistic. A bottom three would mean Kyle Davidson better get his ass fired. I'm not kidding. I was a little disappointed that Kyle Davidson hasn't got things done. The offseason's still another 2 months, and there's still lots to happen. But if Kyle Davidson wants to keep his job, these Hawks need to drastically improve. And these are his draft picks that are playing now. These are his picks, his players he's traded for, players he's picked. This is now fully Kyle Davidson's roster. And now we got to make it prove it. We got to prove it. We got to prove that this plan is put into action and that we're going to go forward and we're going to do well with this roster. Thanks for watching. Like, comment your thoughts. What do you think? How do you think the Hawks are going to do? It's going to be an interesting year for sure. Subscribe if you really liked it. Share with all your friends. I will catch you on the flip side, Blackhawkers. Next year will definitely be an interesting one for sure. But there's more to say about it probably when we get to see the Bedard extension and everything else.